There it is. This is insane. The water hasn't gone down at all, and now it's just pouring rain once again. So seems like I'm in this for the long haul. Everything's just as flooded as far as you can see.
There's so much water in South Carolina, and more is on the way.
Some of the water gauges, some of the river gauges, Alex, were actually washed away.
Floodwaters continue to pound the structures here in the southeast side of Columbia. And since this is river flooding, it's going to persist for days.
That car's almost gone. Uh-oh. Yep, he just made a mistake.
Places they're talking about this is a 1 in 1,000 year flood.
Okay guys, welcome to Arcade Bodyshop. Now I'm not trying to start things on a somber note. I just had a lot of you guys ask me, what's the story behind the Flood Pac? You know, how did all this happen? So I figured it'd be a great opportunity, since it's episode 1 of the real series, to kind of go back and take a look at everything. As you saw in the footage, 2015 October, our house completely flooded. We lost everything downstairs. I lost most of my games that I worked so hard to do. I had started in the hobby probably about a year and a half before the flood happened, and I had a bunch of the games going. It was my kid's birthday like 2 weeks before the flood. I worked extra hard to make sure all the games were working for their birthday party. I had about probably 15, 20 games at that point, and then out of nowhere, that flood happened, and it was, 1 in 1,000 year occurrence. And my plan was to get trucks, move all the games out, but the water came up so fast that all the roads had closed, and I had to make a real decision on how to save the games. And the only thing that I could really think of is to take the games that were the most popular, like Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man, and actually lay them on the side and stack the games up. And I never thought that it would get past one game, let alone the second level of games. And I ended up losing more than half of my games in doing so. And, a lot of people are like, oh, you're so stupid for restoring that pack. But, every day when I came downstairs, I would see that Pac-Man on its side, and it was holding up my other games. It was holding up my Tron. It was holding up, games that are harder to find. And I just, it sounds cheesy, but it's like, I felt like I owed it to that pack to put everything I had to try to bring it back, just as a symbol for me and my family. Because my whole studio was downstairs. My wife's a professional photographer. We lost like over $30,000 worth of stuff downstairs. And it was really a devastating time for our family. I was out of work for about 6 weeks before I could really pick up and start doing commercials again like I was doing. And like I said, that pack was the one thing that I came downstairs every single day, and I would look to see where the water level was, and I could actually measure it per day on the Pac-Man marquee. Okay, it's to the C, now it's on the M, now it's on the A. But it was also a symbol of hope for me when the water was going from A down to, down all the way down to P. So, that's the whole story behind the Flood Pac. It was a crazy time, and we, there was families much worse off than us. I mean, we still had a place to live. Our house was raised up. It was just like we lost all our business and things that you don't think about. It was a small house, but it had a ton of outdoor living space at the time. And so like, we lost pictures of the kids. We lost, just things you can't replace. And it's a really tough thing to go through. And to be honest, Arcade Bodyshop kind of came out of that whole tragedy. And it was an emotional time. And I think that's probably why it's taken me so long to actually start working on this pack, because, it brings up some old memories of that time. I was trapped in the house for 18 days during that time period. And it was a crazy time. But be honest, after all that, I was going to give up. I really didn't want to do the arcades anymore. I put all that hard work and money into it, and then just to see it all washed away and destroyed. And then, I have an amazing group of friends in the Carolina Arcade Collectors group on Facebook, and they had gone ahead and raised $600 to buy me replacement cabinets, because I went ahead and pulled all the PCBs out of everything. And but I mean, some of these people I was friends with just a couple of months, and they banded together, raised over like $600, and they were going to buy me replacement cabinets. But then when they saw how much we lost with everything, they just donated that money to our family. And I was like, this is a hobby I want to be in the rest of my life. So Arcade Bodyshop is kind of a way to give back. I feel like I have a skill at fixing these machines and saving them. They were such a big part of my childhood growing up, as most of you watching. And, you know, I truly feel almost any game can be saved. I mean, you know, if you put enough time and effort, and some shouldn't, you know, honestly, if it's just beyond belief. But, you know, I brought some real things that were destined to be wall art. I brought them back to life. And that's what I want to do with this pack. So to pick up, my camera broke right when I was filming this. So all this footage is actually, ironically, filmed right during Hurricane Matthew, which South Carolina flooded again. And thank God we moved. We moved to a 10-acre farm way away from water. The house that we were in, it actually flooded almost 2 feet higher than when we were there last year. So I would have lost everything again. So I just thank God that we moved. But this picks up, I filmed it right before Hurricane Matthew hit. Then my camera broke. Then we had a bunch of damage around the farm I had to fix and all that stuff. So I got tied up. So if you hear me talking about Hurricane Matthew, this is old footage here. This stuff right now I'm filming on a new camera, new microphone. Sounds pretty good. And so we're going to go through the part that I filmed. That will be episode 1. And then we'll pick it up from there with the new camera and everything like that. So enjoy episode 1. Alright guys, here's a closer look at the pack. Look at the patina on this thing. At first I actually thought it would be kind of cool just to clean it all up and then, you know, just put a clear coat on it. Because it really looks like it's from like another planet. Like it, you know, the water here is like a brown, like iced tea color. And it just kind of stained the cabinet just in the right areas. It's really weird. So looking inside, as I said, I cleaned it out pretty well, but you can still see there's like caked mud. That's how much this thing was underwater. And we see some damage here on the wood here. We'll probably have to replace this wood and this MDF top stuff because I think it's a little thicker than it should be. But what I wanted to do is keep the cab structurally, you know, the same. Check out this control panel though. Like I said, you ever see the guys who restore the old rat rods? How cool would that be just to clear coat that? I don't know. Yeah, I want to do it all back to original, but same thing, patina on the front. Got some damage on the bottom. Might have to cut some of the cab there. This side, actually not too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and take it right down to bare wood though. Both sides, we're gonna sand it down, and we're gonna, you know, make this thing factory fresh. He deserves it. He worked hard for everybody. There's some blemishes and stuff here, but like I said, the wood itself is pretty solid. I see it, you know, delaminating a little bit here. We'll take care of that. Same thing on the back. That blowout was there beforehand, so we might end up replacing this piece of wood, you know, just to get it nice and neat. And then inside, it's disgusting. So, I mean, I'm positive we're gonna have to put a new bottom in this, and then we're gonna sand the crap out of the sides and all that, and any of the wood that needs to be replaced, maybe that back of the, or, you know, we'll rebuild the coin box or something. And, you know, anything that's just too far gone, we are gonna replace. I just wanna keep the cabinet itself intact. And there's all the wiring harness and you know, some of the metal. Everything's rusted, so we're gonna hit that all in the sandblast cabinet. And this is the gross side, so it's kind of cool though. I don't know, what do you guys think? We're gonna bring this back to new. We're gonna do new stencils, new paint, and marquee held up pretty good. So I think we're gonna go original marquee on this. We'll just clean it up. But you can even see that it's like that weird stained color. So let me get this thing flipped on its side. We'll go ahead and start attacking it with some 120 grit sandpaper and get this thing down, and then we'll start identifying the problems and fixing them one by one. I'm so excited to start doing this. And this is the first official full restore that we're gonna be doing on Arcade Bodyshop. So pretty excited, guys. Let's get started. Alright, first things first is get this guy all cleaned up. This bottom is definitely going to have to be replaced, but what I want to do is get all the paint, all the old gook off it. Let's get down to bare wood, see what we're working with, and then we'll go from there. So what I'm going to do is just start out with the random orbital sander, and we're going to go ahead and sand all this off with 120 grit, and then get down to the bare wood. We want to go all the way down to the bare wood, find any imperfections or anything that was caused by being under the water. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And for the record, I'm not wearing a mask because I'm in a tropical storm with about 20-mile-an-hour winds. So no chance of me breathing in what I'm doing here. But for safety, you should wear a mask. Your yellow is going to come off quicker because this, you know, the black and the blue and the red, it's actually several coats of paint because they paint the whole thing yellow, then they stencil the next one, then the next one. So this graphic here is going to be harder to get off than the actual yellow. So what I do is, you know, while the disc is still fresh, I go ahead and hit everything lightly, and then I'll come back with new disc, new disc, new disc. But you can use 80 grit. I think it'd be too aggressive. 120 works well, so we'll use that. Alright, changing third disc now. Yeah, I'm speeding these things up because I don't want you guys to watch me sand this cabinet for 3 hours. That would not be fun. But it's starting to look like something, right guys? It's, you know, there's a real cabinet underneath here. So the wood's really good. I'm seeing these lines go all the way down. I'm really wondering, like, when they first originally made these, you know, plywood normally is like a laminate, but these are distinct lines that go down the edge. I wonder if they just pieced like 4 pieces together. I don't know. We'll have to look at that more and see. But we'll have to skim coat these a little bit to make sure that these don't show up and sand them down nice and smooth. Like I said, we got Hurricane Matthew coming. Don't think I'm out here sanding on this and my family's inside. Like we're well prepared, especially after what happened last time. So I just figured it was fitting. And hey, if the power's going to go out, I didn't want to have to sand this thing by hand. So. Alright, let's get going. We're going to keep going and get this side all cleaned up, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the next side. Alright, we got the first side. This was the gross side. We got it all sanded, smooth down to bare wood. And like I said, the wood looks really good, man. It didn't really delaminate anywhere in the middle. And our only real problems that we have were problems that were already existing in the cab before it got wet. So what we'll do is we'll walk around the cab a little bit and identify some of them. Up here, where everybody puts their hands, this is pulled up a little bit. But I'm really liquid hardener, skim coat of bondo. That's not going to be a big deal. And then just looking down the edges, pretty good. We got to do some work here. We'll sand that out some more. This corner is a little rough, but the wood is solid underneath. It's just it's flaky on top. So what we'll do is we'll cut this top veneer. We'll go ahead and slice it probably over to here, where it's all nice solid wood, and we'll get this top veneer off. We'll hit all this with liquid hardener and maybe some glue and clamp it. And then we'll do a nice skim coat of bondo over this because it's not missing the whole corner. You know, we still have structure there. You know, we've been cutting off just the bottom of the cab, but this bottom edge is not that bad all the way across. So I don't think it warrants us cutting that whole corner off. I could be wrong. You know, in the Cubert I said I didn't want to put the new bottom in. We definitely need a new bottom on this. That's disgusting. But same thing over here. You know, we just cut this top veneer layer off to where we're at solid wood, hit it with some liquid hardener, and then, you know, we can rebuild that corner. Come on. So I really think, like I said, the wood is solid underneath. It's flaky on top here. We get these flaky bits out of here, and we get it all cleaned up, wood hardener, clamp it, and then go ahead and hit it with the bondo. We'll be good. So that's the only real damage. Other than that, it's just normal stuff. So this thing was more ugly than anything. Like this was here beforehand. You know, we still got some old T-molding here. Ew. I still got some gross stuff in it from the flood. So, and I had a couple guys on the forums ask me, they're like, hey, why do you want to do this? And part of it is personal. Like I said, you know, this was the guy who saved a bunch of my games. So I feel like I owe it to this cabinet to do it. And I have a connection with it. And if you have a connection with your game, man, by all means, go as far as you can to get that thing back to new. You know what I mean? It might be something from your childhood that you're just like, oh my God, it reminds me of my childhood. It makes you feel great. So, you know, do it for personal reasons, not because people say, hey, it's stupid to attempt that, or why would you spend the money on doing that, just get a new cab. You know, take the pride in it and redo it. They're not making any more of these guys, so that's why we're doing it. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and get this thing flipped, go ahead and start on another side, and then after all that's done, we'll start identifying all the spots, we'll mark them, and then we'll get doing some body work. All right, next up we'll sand to the front. Like I said, same thing with the other sides. I mean, we got some flaking here, but I believe that was pre-existing. So we'll cut that top veneer back, and we'll get this all done up right. So let's get it all sanded, get it back down to bare wood, make sure there's nothing hidden underneath it, and then we'll do the final side. Alright, had changed discs again, and we're getting close. It's feeling pretty smooth. I noticed something on midway cabs. The front, the wood grain goes horizontally, and on the sides it goes vertically. So you want to kind of try to sand with the wood grain to get the smoothest possible. It doesn't really matter when you're taking the paint off, but once you get into actually smoothing everything out. And this looks good, man. Like I said, just some work down at the bottom, and then this right here. So I mean, what seems unrestorable, once you get it down and start looking at it, I saw this big dent right here. That definitely didn't happen during the flood. Somebody kicked that at some point. So it's solid though. So let's keep going, get the rest of this off, and I want to get the other side sanded too before this rain comes. It looks threatening. It's supposed to start hitting us tonight, and like I said, we're all super prepped for it. I'm glad we don't live anywhere near the river anymore, because they're saying it looks like it's going to be flooding again. So my heart goes out to anybody who is even remotely going to go through what we went through last year. So our thoughts and prayers, if you guys can throw them their way as well. But let's go and get this thing back to normal. Yep, we had to move inside. It started to rain. We're getting some of the tropical bands and stuff coming through right now, so we moved inside. But what we'll do is we'll start repairing this flakiness that is here. So what we want to do is, I got my X-Acto set. This is an Excel set. You can get it at, I got this at Hobby Lobby. And yeah, man, I want to do an episode just on how to do this hobby on the cheap. I'm not like crazy coupon dude, but Hobby Lobby, for things like X-Acto blades, X-Acto knives, they give once a week you can do a 40% off coupon. You just go to their website or download their app, and this was a $30 set. I mean, these aren't the cheap ones. These are actually a pretty decent set. And I got, you know, it was $30. I got a 40% off coupon. I think I walked out the door with it for like 16 bucks or something like that. You know, a little more than that, 17 bucks. And it's awesome, man. Save anywhere you can, because all the money you save, you're able to buy more games. And there goes my fan falling down. So anyways, and all we got is the X-Acto blades, and we got the wood hardener. I know we use this all the time, you know, in here, and it seems like I'm always, hey, use this, use this, use this, but there's certain tools of the trade that you're just going to use all the time. Wood hardener is that. So hopefully we can get them to sponsor the show one time or something. Maybe some Simple Green, wood hardener, bondo, and who knows. But let's get going here. What we're going to do is look for the places where it's peeling up. So it's obviously loose all down here. So we want to get rid of all this loose veneer. The way plywood's made, it's just kind of like layers of paper that are sandwiched together. And all this loose stuff here we want to cut out. And what we want to do is just get to a good solid base, and then we're going to go ahead and hit it with the liquid hardener. What the liquid hardener does is it works kind of like the original glue that held all these pieces together. And then, you know, from there, once we got a solid base, then the bondo has something to grab onto. Like I said, this is a lot of it's cosmetic. So what we'll do is we'll just get the X-Acto blade out. Try to do it without cutting myself open here. All right, so we'll get that. And what I'm going to do is kind of just get a feel for how far this wood is peeling back. You know, and what's rough, remove the loose stuff that's loose. And then what I'm going to do is just cut. I'm just going to cut right through this top layer right here. You don't have to be fancy. You can make it square if you wanted to. You know, pull out a straight edge or something like that. But what I'm doing is just trying to cut through that. And what I want to do is snap it at that line. But this is obviously looser up higher. So it's just kind of like trial by error. You got to just cut through the wood. Make a couple passes. And what we're trying to do is just get up to a point where you got nice solid wood to work from. So, see? So that just broke on my cut. This doesn't peel up anymore. And then we can skim coat that 1/16 of an inch with bondo. So what I'm doing is just making a couple passes on this. And the birds are chirping outside. I don't think they realize Category 3 hurricane's coming. Everybody's been asking me, a lot of you guys have been awesome, like saying, hey, you guys evacuating and stuff. We've actually moved in quite a ways. We've moved about 30 miles inland, so we're not right on the coast. It's still going to be probably bumpy, you know, lots of rain. But they are calling for flooding very similar to what we had last year. But I learned my lesson about living on or close to a river, and we moved to a 10-acre farm that's landlocked. So we are not going anywhere near that river. So there we go. That took a chunk of it out of it with it. But like I said, like, see, that's all hardwood underneath there. So what we're doing is we're just getting rid of all the crappy flaky stuff, and you can cut underneath it. I'm going to do one more pass on this. So a lot of it's just that surface, and like I said, this cabinet had damage even before it went through the flood. So I think this just made it flake a little bit more, but a lot of this damage is what you'll get, because like I said, a lot of times these were in arcades, these were in pizza places. And, you know, the guy at the end of the night mopping up, he would just slap that mop up against the side of the cabinet. He didn't care, you know, he just wanted to get out of work. So these got water damage even when they were still in use. So that looks good. We're a little soft over here, but once we put that wood hardener on there and give that a nice clamp, that's going to come right back together. And then we'll be able to just bondo this. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this edge, and then when I come back, we'll do the other corner together so you guys can see it from a different angle. We moved over to the second corner now, and we're going to do the same thing. This one you can probably actually see better because I'm right-handed. I won't be in your way. But what we're going to do is see this loose, you know, where this peels up. We want to get rid of any of this loose stuff like that. You know, this stuff can't be, well, it can be saved. I mean, it's a lot of gluing and clamping and all that, but we can just fill it all in with the bondo. So there's not really that much. It's a little loose on this edge here, so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and cut this out just along this edge. Just get a nice sharp X-Acto knife, or you can actually do it with a utility knife as well. Just make a couple passes. We're just trying to get down through that first layer and get to where it's nice solid wood over here. So bondo will cover a lot of stuff, and it'll be incredibly strong. I mean, it's built for cars. I mean, you could do this with wood putty and stuff like that, but with, you know, especially down here in the south, as humid as it is, you know. See, we got almost all that off. And all this loose little stuff is what we want to get rid of. But yeah, like I was saying, wood putty, there we go. See how that just came off our line? Wood putty, it doesn't heat and contract as good as bondo. Bondo's made for cars that are moving and all that, so it just works a lot better, I believe, and it's super tough once you get it done right. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting these little fibers off, and we'll scrub this out with a wire brush once we're done. But I just want anything that's loose, I want it off. I just want to get down to solid wood, you know, which this is all solid under here. It's not all waterlogged and messy. And again, this damage was done pre-flood. I am actually totally surprised how well this held up in the flood. If this was the MDF cab, which I actually had one, I had a Galaga that got wet, and that thing just melted. It was disgusting. Same parts of it, but it was pretty gross. So I'm doing the same thing on this bottom edge. Not that bad here, just getting rid of the loose stuff. Because you don't want to do your bondo over this. You do your bondo over this, it's just going to flake off with this. So you want to get down to a nice solid underneath. And you can spot fix these repairs like this anywhere. Like if you had a large dimple here, you could actually cut a nice square around it and then, you know, remove it and then just skim over it. I do that sometimes. So I'm just trying to get this loose stuff up here. And then we'll go ahead and hit this with Liquid Hardner. We'll throw some clamps on it for about an hour or so. And then we can come back and bondo. Man, I can't tell you guys how good it feels to be working on one of my games. Like I got all these games sitting in here in various states of disrepair from the flood still, and you know, we got a lot of flood cabinets we're going to be working on. We got Asteroids Deluxe. I got my Punch Out. We got a lot of great things to cover. I got the Frogger coming up, Frogger Restore. Going to be doing a Crazy Climber, which is really cool. What else? Oh, double pole position. That's going to be an amazing one. I'm doing it for a good friend of mine, Jason. His brother has autism, and it's his favorite game in the whole wide world, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to combine pole position 1 and pole position 2 into one cabinet. I know that board's coming out, which will make it a lot easier, hopefully, by the time I do it, if it does. But if not, we're going to figure out a cool solution to put both boards in there. So, all right. What I'm going to do is just clean up the rest of this stuff. You know, hit it with a wire brush, get this really cleaned up. You don't want any of this flaky stuff out of there. You want to get down to nice, solid, hard wood. And then we'll come back and we'll do the wood hardener and go ahead and clamp it for a little bit, let it sit, harden up, and then we will be ready for bondo. All right, I got it all cleaned up, got it brushed out, everything's looking really, really good. I don't really even think we got to clamp this size. So what we're going to use is we're going to use this Minwax wood hardener. Serious, man, I should buy stock in this, the amount that I use it, but it's magical, and it fixes things really well. And what it will do is it will really go into the wood fibers, harden everything up, and give you a nice strong base for everything to work off of when you reskim this with the bondo. So no simple, you just open the thing up. I have put it in a spray bottle, and believe it or not, it will stay intact in the spray bottle and will not gum up the nozzle. The only problem I found is I can't get the bottle unscrewed again. So what I normally do is if I'm using the spray bottle, I just take the full bottle of this and put it in the spray bottle and then just throw the spray bottle away when it's gone. But on bigger repairs like this, I just pour it right onto it. And as you see, it will just go right into all the fibers, and that's what you want it to do. You want it just to soak up, and this stuff smells. So like I said, I got the garage door open. Make sure you don't just breathe this stuff in because it's pretty heavy duty. But I give it a good hit, and then I come back and I'll give it one more. Get a little bit on this edge. If you get it on the cabinet itself, it's not a big deal. You can sand it off. If you're working around artwork and you're just patching it, that's one thing. But this will actually grab onto all the fibers and really harden it up. I got this other little section here that I cut out. We'll move the camera. Alright, got this other little section I cut out. I know it looks like a weird shape, but you'll never see it once the bondo's there. and just dribble. And this will just cause that edge not to flake up anymore, and it will just soak in to the wood. And then let's go to this side over here. We got this corner. This is a big one. Lots of stuff here. So we'll go ahead and just start soaking these wood fibers. A little bit goes a long way too. It's like a wick. As soon as you put it on, it'll start to, just go everywhere. And just make sure you don't get this really where you don't want it to. Like, I don't care if it goes on the wood, because we're really going to refinish everything and resand it. But the actual wood, if you still have to shape it, that's a little tough, because it really gets that hard that this stuff's almost hard. It's harder to sand than Bondo for sure. So I want this to soak into the cab all along this edge. I want to make sure that I get this edge right here, because that will bond it to the wood underneath, and it's not going to peel up at all. So I'm going to go ahead and let this soak. I'm going to hit it one more time, and then I'll probably clamp this side, because this side was a little more loose. We'll clamp it on the corner, and then I'll go around the cab and hit any other small spots, and then we'll get ready to start bondoing. Liquid Hardner is all hardened up right now. It is rock solid. So we got a good base. It didn't take long. I mean, it took about 20 minutes for that to harden up enough where we can go ahead and cover it. Yeah, it's not even tacky anymore. It dries pretty quick if it's on the wood. And it's soaked up into the fibers here. So we're going to be able to do a good skim coat to that. Got some Bondo all put out, and what we're going to do is go ahead and mix in the hardener, and then we're going to start skim coating this whole area. This is probably going to take a couple coats, especially when we start rebuilding the actual corner. My goal right now is just to get this resurfaced close to the same of the original side of the cabinet, and then we'll rebuild the corner after that. So a lot of times guys just shovel on the Bondo, and this, I mean, probably 2 coats we could probably get the whole thing rebuilt. What we want to do is just build a strong base for all this on that corner, and I like to do it in layers, just like the plywood's in layers. So what we'll do is go ahead and get some liquid hardener on here. We'll get it all mixed up. Just a little drop. Sometimes I like to put a little more in there because I work fast and I like it to harden quick. You can definitely put too much though, and then you run out of time. So we'll just move really quick on this. And what you're doing is just trying to get an even color, that nice pink reddish color. And once you get that, you can start applying it. So we look good. And I'm just using strokes to get it filled in to the edge, and then we'll come back and smooth it. But what I'm trying to do is just get a nice coat on this whole area. And the whole thing, a lot of guys, they write me and they're like, oh man, I don't know how to Bondo. And I'm like, the cool thing about Bondo is you can learn by trial and error. You know what I mean? If you mess it up, sand it off, bro. Like, it's not there forever. So, you can definitely make mistakes for sure, but you're not, I could show you all day on these videos, how I do it, but literally the way I do it is not from any instructional video. It was getting the basics of it like I'm giving you, and then coming back and coming up with my own process to do it. So I'm just making sure that I'm getting in all these gaps. I want to solidify this whole thing and make sure we got a good base for the next coat. So that's all I'm trying to do, is build it up right now. And like I said, this might take 2, maybe even 3 coats, but it'll be worth it. And it is a heck of a lot faster than cutting off the wood with the biscuit joints like you guys have been seeing me do on the other videos. So I'm just making sure that I got enough to fill in. And you want to get it as close to your finished product as possible, because if you let this harden up like big chunks, it will take an extremely long time to sand down. So you can cut a lot of your work right here. And I'll show you a cool little tip and trick here in a second. So we're going to go ahead and let that harden up, give it a couple minutes. And once it starts solidifying, because it gets to a certain point, it will just start pulling. I know it looks ugly right now, but like I said, all we're trying to do is just build up that corner at the moment. and then we'll make it look pretty with the next couple coats. So we'll let it harden up a little bit, give it about a couple minutes, and then we'll come back and I'll clean it up a little bit and we'll do the other side. Okay, it's been a couple minutes. It's been probably about 4 or 5 minutes, and it's definitely hardening up. You can feel it. But when it's still in this rubbery stage, what I do is I get a razor blade, just a regular straight razor blade. And you can actually follow the contour of the cabinet and just slice it so it's nice and smooth and straight. And this one little trick, I mean, be careful, you're dealing with a razor blade, but this one little trick will save you so much time on sanding. So you just follow the cabinet. If it starts catching or something, go the other way. And what I'm doing is I'm just trying to straighten out that edge so I don't have to sand for days and days and days all this loose bondo. So come right down this back edge. I guess that'd be the front edge. And just shave it. And see all that goopy? And this is, if you watch, that's how we're already starting to rebuild our corner. So that's built up like that. And you can do the same thing on the top. Keep it nice and level. And you got this magic window of opportunity to do this with a razor blade. Like, probably about 4 minutes or so once you apply it. While it's still in like a putty-like state. And like a sculptor, man, you can just resculpt your cab. So, and like I said, that will save you so much time bondoing, or sanding the bondo. So that looks pretty good. Just go down this little way here. Just square everything off. And if you look, we already got like a straight edge right there. So that's a little time-saving trick. It will help you out tremendously and save you tons of time actually sanding the bondo. So we'll let this harden up and we'll go ahead and start working on the other side. We switched over to the other side, got some more bondo out here. We're going to go ahead and add the liquid hardener, just a dot. And then we're going to mix that in and go ahead and hit this bottom edge and that corner. Go ahead and rebuild that. And then we'll do the same thing with our little razor blade trick. That really does save so much time, man. And I haven't seen anybody do that. I don't want to say I invented it. Like I don't feel comfortable saying that. But I'm just saying it's something, you know, figuring it out one day, working. I was like, hey man, I wonder if you can cut this. And you can. So it saves a ton of time. So you're more than welcome to use it. Like I could stop you anyways, right? That's stupid. Yeah, so much of this stuff in Arcade is trial and error. I mean, you got the technical aspect of things. That's just something you got to learn. I mean, either you can just, I can say I'm definitely, I mean, I can fix games for sure, but I would say my strong point is the cabinet part. And I'm learning more and more every day on the tech side of things. And I've fixed boards, I've fixed, monitors, I've done things, but this is definitely more my comfort zone, and I'm looking to become more well-rounded overall. And that's something I want to do with the show too, is I'm really going to try to get some of the experts in particular parts of arcade repair and get them to come on the show. We'll do some interviews and some cool stuff like that. So I will learn with you guys. Like I said a couple years ago, I didn't know anything about arcade repair. I was always handy, but I wasn't, I never worked in an arcade. I never, any of that stuff. Spent a lot of coins in them, though. I can tell you that. Now, this is a little bit wavy right here, so what I want to do is just go ahead and let that harden up. We're going to have to come back for a second coat on that. And while we still got it loose, let's go ahead and get this bottom edge recoated. I'm just scraping it on the edge all the way across, and then we'll just come across real light. You don't want to pull it all off. And we'll just do that and come back this way and do one last little scrape this way, and we'll let that harden up. And once it hardens up, then we'll go ahead and do the razor blade trick down the edge, down this edge, and then we'll be ready probably for second coat here in a little while. I'm going to let it harden up and hit a couple of the small spots around the cabinet, but we're essentially doing the same thing. On these ones, they're more damaged, so we got to build up the corners a little bit more. So we'll let that harden up. All right, again, like the other side, give it a couple minutes to dry. We're going to go ahead and use the razor blade and just cut right down the edge. Make this nice straight line. And see? Cut the bondo off. And we'll do the same thing on the bottom. Just follow that edge. Now your edge has got to be straight. You're going to mess things up. So a lot of times I sand the edge before I do that. And I'm just trying to get this big bulky stuff off so it doesn't mess with us. And the other cool thing is if you get a little on the cabinet part, you can just go right up to your repair, just shave it, and then that's going to be 10 times easier to sand. Now I'm not digging the bondo out of the repair. I'm just going around the edge. So I already did that right here. But now this is just wood. Now we're left with bondo. You don't have to sand all that to get to it. So what I'm going to do is go around the rest of the cab and hit any of the small little pieces, and we'll let this major repair down here dry, and then we'll definitely put a dust mask on, and probably let it sit for a little while, and then we'll give it a rough sanding just to get everything flat and see what parts we have to still fill, and then we'll work on rebuilding the corners on the second coat. Okay, and right about there is where the camera died, so we ended up giving it about 3 months to harden, and that's where we're going to pick up on episode 2. I actually have not touched the cab all through the holidays. I had a bunch of stuff going on, but we're back at it, and there was too much good stuff in this. We did a lot of work, so I wanted to show you guys, and I'm not a big fan of showing, you know, sanding for 20 minutes, so I tried to speed up everything and make it as painless as possible. Also wanted to tell you, if you haven't seen my message on the Facebook page, which is Arcade Bodyshop, just search for that and be sure to like it. And I do updates throughout the week while you're waiting for new videos. We're going to have episode 2 of this coming out very shortly, probably within the next week. I'm also launching a new series called Behind the Coin Door. It's going to be on this YouTube channel, but I'm going to be interviewing some of the great people behind our hobby. I already got Walter Day from Twin Galaxies coming on, Tim McVeigh from Man vs. Snake, Richie Knuckles is coming on, and for this particular one, I'm going to kick it off with an interview with one of the guys from Buckner and Garcia who did Pac-Man Fever. Jerry Buckner is going to come on, and we're going to talk about the song. We're going to talk about how, like, the whole era, how it went crazy, Pac-Man crazy back then. And I just figured it was a cool interview that we're going to fit into this. So so be sure to subscribe. Click the little button. I think it's right over here somewhere. Click the little thing and subscribe. And you know, you'll be updated as soon as the new videos come out. And I'm going to try to just keep them coming now. Week after week. We got a lot of restores coming up and a lot of great stuff. If you got any questions for me, you can hit me up, arcadebodyshop@gmail.com. Let me know if there's somebody you want me to interview. It doesn't have to be famous arcade people. If you see somebody who's really got an awesome collection or is just a real enthusiast or whatever, you know, feel free to drop me a line, arcadebodyshop@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to get them on for an interview. So until next time, thanks guys for being patient. We're back on board. New episodes. Pac-Man episode 1 is in the books.